It is our 1,000th episode of Locked On New York Rangers, and we get to celebrate together with a big 3-1 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. We break down everything that happened, including the latest on the Rangers' newfound goalie controversy.
You're Locked On the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blueshirts fans, to episode number 1,000 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That song you're hearing right now is, of course, Leave the Lights On from our good friends in Passafire. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So somehow, some way, we're here. We made it, our 5th season of New York Ranger coverage, and today is indeed our 1,000th episode. I'm going to have some shout-outs, and first of all, let me just say right off the top of the show here, thank you guys so much, whether this is your 1,000th episode of Locked On Rangers, your first, or anywhere in between. It really means a lot that you guys, take some time out of your day to, get caught up on all the latest Ranger happenings with me. It's been a blast doing this show over the past couple of years here. Cannot ever thank you guys enough, and I'll elaborate on that, like I said, a little bit more in today's episode. But it's not about me, man. It's about the New York Rangers, and they just came away with a really impressive 3-1 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. I said coming out of the break that these are going to be 2 huge games for the Rangers. They obviously scuffled for the month of January, but you hope that the break did them some good. It appears that that was indeed the case. And this is a pretty soft schedule for the Rangers in the month of February. For the most part, these are 2 tough teams right out of the starting blocks, but it gets considerably easier in the rest of this entire month here, basically. There's like 2 teams that are currently in playoff position as far as the Ranger opponents for the rest of the month, so they got to take advantage of that. And so far, so good, knocking off the Avalanche and the Lightning in 2, very close and low-scoring games. Always great to see. And we got to talk about Jonathan Quick, because this is right now the biggest storyline surrounding the Rangers. It's not just that, he's been one of the better backups in the league, and man, you feel good about, Jonathan Quick when he's in there. You feel like he's going to get you a win. All that's true, but now, we've gotten to the point where it basically looks like a full-blown goalie controversy, goalie debate, whatever you want to call it. This was Jonathan Quick's 3rd straight start between the game against the Senators. That was the last game before the break, and obviously these 2 games here against the Avalanche and the Lightning. And in this one, Quick wasn't as busy in this one as he has been in some other games, but he was big time, stops 18 of 19 shots, and again, leads the Rangers to the 3-1 win. And everything that's going on between Quick and Igor right now, it does kind of remind me of, I want to say like 2015 or 2016, 2017, somewhere in that area, when Antti Raanta got hot for a while and they actually sat down Henrik Lundqvist. It's a little bit different now because, Lundqvist was hurt for a while. I know Igor got hurt earlier this year, but, Lundqvist was hurt. Raanta just happened to get hot, and they had to go with Raanta for a little while, and eventually Henrik got the crease back. And right now it's somewhat similar. I think Igor's struggling more this season than Lundqvist was last year, or, years ago, whenever that was, 2016-ish, whatever year that happened to be. But certainly there's some similarities there. The one thing that I will say, the thought that I keep going back to, because I see a lot of people saying, this is Quick's net, Quick's the starter now, we're going all in with Quick, Igor's the backup, Igor can't play, this, that, and the other thing. The thought that I still keep going back to, though, is that if the Rangers are the last team standing, if they are the Stanley Cup champions at the end of the year, I still believe it's going to be Igor Shesterkin mostly leading the way. I don't know that for sure. I will say this, though, and this is an idea that I want to elaborate a little bit more in a future episode, probably when the Rangers aren't coming off of playing a game. If Jonathan Quick ends up being the starting goalie for the New York Rangers, for the rest of the season, and they decide to roll with him into the playoffs, and he plays every game or just about every game in the playoff run, and somehow, some way, the Rangers win the Stanley Cup, and it's Jonathan Quick leading the way, there at that point is a case to be made that Jonathan Quick is the greatest goalie in the history of the NHL. Even if all those things happen, I'm not sure that I would go quite that far, but at that point, there would be a case to be made. I'm going to elaborate on that, like I said, that whole concept in a future episode, but I wanted to at least kind of introduce it here and let it marinate a little bit. You guys let me know what you think. I also want to, given this whole, Quick and Igor debate that's going on right now, I saw there was an interesting YouTube comment. It's something that I haven't really seen suggested from other people. It's something that I hadn't really thought of either, at least not extensively or really at all, if I'm being completely honest. But the YouTube commenter, he has the username Frozen. There's two O's, Frozen1. And this is what he had to say about the situation. Could it be that having a goalie of Quick status and accomplishments on the team is what's gotten into Igor's head? Does he feel intimidated, looking over his shoulder, wondering if he can measure up? I wouldn't completely rule that out. I don't think that would really be what's going on here, but at a certain point, maybe things snowball a little bit. Igor didn't get off to, the best start this season. He had his injury. Quick played very well in Igor's absence. Igor comes back, doesn't really find his stride for a while there, and Jonathan Quick has played very, very well, and you have to believe at one time or another in Igor's life, I mean, he's 10 years younger than Jonathan Quick. There had to be a point when nobody knew who Igor Shesterkin was, or very few people, and Jonathan Quick was doing his thing, winning his first Stanley Cup. Quick, I think, was 26 when he won his first cup. Igor would have been 16. I mean, Igor had to have been aware of that, right? He had to have been looking at Jonathan Quick, and that's one of the big-time goalies on this planet. That's who I want to be like. And now he's his teammate. I mean, there could be some truth to what you said there. I think it's an interesting concept. I still think that having Jonathan Quick on the team as Igor Shesterkin's teammate, though, is much more of a positive than it is a negative, and hopefully we see some evidence of that toward the end of the season. Hopefully Igor gets back on track and, again, reverts to the goalie that we all know and love, basically the goalie that he's been ever since coming into the NHL this season, obviously, notwithstanding. Speaking of the entire controversy here, though, this might be a little bit of a controversial take in and of itself, but, you're looking ahead at the schedule and you're trying to map out, okay, which goalie gets which game, and I see people saying, ride or die with Quick. He's got to keep getting starts until he cools off. I think Igor should start Friday's game on the road against the Blackhawks. And again, if you want to say that Quick should be out there, I get it. You don't have to, really explain yourself even. I get where you're coming from because he's obviously played very well. But here's my question. Even if you are at the point where you say Jonathan Quick is the starter, they have to go with him night in and night out. Igor is now the bona fide backup. Even if you take it to that extreme, backup goalies get starts, right? I mean, even if Igor is the clear-cut backup at this point, if the roles were reversed and if this season was unfolding the way that we thought it would, where, Igor is a top 5 goalie at this point in the season and Jonathan Quick is, giving you some decent starts as the backup goalie, I think that's probably what a lot of us would have expected. Would you really go this long without giving Quick a single start? Probably not. And if that's the case, then there's no reason that Igor should go this long without getting a start either, unless they're just completely convinced that he just needs a long mental break and needs to work with Benoit Allaire and needs to, get some things right. I mean, if that's the case, then I suppose there's still a case to be made. But if Igor starts this Friday against the Blackhawks, which is a big if, because as far as I know, we don't know who the starter is going to be, that would be exactly 2 weeks since Igor Shesterkin's most recent start. And we're not going to count the All-Star game. That's a glorified skills competition and an exhibition, so that doesn't count. It'd be 2 weeks for Igor Shesterkin between starts. Now, if he doesn't start this Friday against the Blackhawks, the next game for the Rangers is the following Monday. That's at home against the Flames. And at that point, we're up to 17 days between starts for Igor Shesterkin. And again, I don't think you would have Quick or whoever the backup goalie is, Halak last year, Georgiev for a few years before that. I don't think you'd have any backup goalie on this team go that long without making a single start. So I don't think you should do it to Igor Shesterkin either. And something else that I like about giving Igor the start here, against the Blackhawks is that it's a road game. I think that might actually be better for Igor right now because, the Raider fans have really taken to Jonathan Quick and they want to ride with him and they've really embraced him and that's great and everything. But if Igor starts a home game and things don't go too well and, he's getting lit up by a team like the Blackhawks, I don't think the Garden fans are going to boo him or anything like that, but there will be like a certain tension in the air and why are they starting Igor? They should have just gone with Quick. I think it's better off for Igor to make his first start on the road and to do so against a lackluster Blackhawks team that he should be able to beat. And of course, that could go either way too. On one hand, what I just said, it's not a good team. You think Igor should be able to beat them. On the other hand, if it goes south and he goes out there and gets lit up and, maybe doesn't even make it through the game, that's not going to be good either. You probably have to go back to Quick in the next game. And then, this just kind of sits and festers, and Igor Shesterkin has this to think about for quite some time until his next start, whenever that would be. So, there's a couple of different, thoughts, schools of thought here, a couple of different ways you could go. But if it's up to me, I get Igor back out there. Hopefully he can take care of a lackluster team like the Blackhawks. Hopefully the Rangers can play good defense in front of him and, just get a little bit back on track for Igor Shesterkin. Hopefully it's a good night for him. The good news is that the locker room still seems pretty harmonious. Igor and Quick have continued to talk very glowingly about each other. Peter Laviolette the other day said that Shesty is our guy. Did add that, of course, they want to get him some more work with Benoit Allaire. But Igor seems to be in good spirits, or as good a spirits as he could be in for everything that's going on right now. Again, he's been working quite a bit with Benoit Allaire on the ice, and they've been looking at video as well. And Igor was asked about it the other day, and he said, apparently kind of joking around that Allaire keeps building my confidence because he cannot score on me. So Igor, again, handling it about as well as he can. Hopefully that's, a sign that he's eventually going to get things turned around. And whenever he gets back out there, all eyes are going to be on Igor Shesterkin, not just from Ranger fans, but I think from curious hockey fans around the league, because it is one of the bigger stories. You've got this Vezina winning goalie and all-star goalie that just can't find it recently. So we'll see what happens whenever Igor does get back out there. And I'm going to be very curious to find out when that is. One more thought on the whole goalie situation before we turn our attention to some other highlights from this game. This is Benoit Allaire's most important assignment to date. He's done incredible work with multiple goalies for the Rangers over a very long time. He's been a member of that coaching staff with multiple head coaches, I believe going all the way back to Tom Rennie. When the Raiders drafted Henrik Lundqvist, it was a dart throw. He's a 7th-round pick. If Benoit Allaire can help Henrik Lundqvist get to the point where he's even a serviceable NHL goalie as a 7th-rounder, then that's great. He's already won. The fact that he turned him into a Hall of Famer, that's just gravy. And of course, he's done nice work with backup goalies like Georgiev, Talbot, Ranta. These guys have all gone on to be starting goalies and good starting goalies since they've been with Benoit Allaire. But again, they're backup goalies. It's not quite as important as what's in front of Benoit Allaire right now. That's getting the Rangers superstar goalie out of his funk, getting him back on track, and getting him back into, being one of the best goalies in the league. That's the task that Benoit Allaire is charged with. Even with Lundqvist, he'd go through mini slumps every now and then, just like every goalie does. But it wasn't until the last couple of years where he just didn't really have it anymore. And at that point, there's only so much that Allaire can do. This, to me, Igor Shesterkin is supposed to be right in the middle of his prime right now. Him getting Igor back on track. The biggest challenge maybe not even the biggest challenge, but I think the most important test that Benoit Allaire has ever faced. Because, again, the Rangers are trying to win a Stanley Cup this season. So that being the case, you got to get your goalie back on track sooner rather than later. So we're going to keep everything rolling in just a second here. I want to turn our attention to some other highlights from this game, including the Rangers doing the impossible and actually getting some secondary scoring. That was obviously nice to see. We're going to talk about that. We'll do that and a whole bunch of other stuff in just a second here. First, though, we want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by our good friends at Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate is not to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates very fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree that Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is also brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Once again, as always, check out our good friends at Robinhood. All right, so big thanks to you guys. As always, our special 1000th episode here. Cannot thank you guys enough for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. In our next episode, gonna probably do a little bit more trade talk. You know, we've got Friday. The Rangers play that night against the Blackhawks. We might preview that game briefly, and maybe by then the Rangers will announce a starting goalie. We can talk a little bit more about that. But I want to turn our attention, I think, to some more trade speculation. You guys seem to be liking those episodes, and like I said, if anybody has a favorite player, a favorite trade target you'd like me to talk about, all you got to do is just leave it in the comment section on YouTube, not the live chat. No guarantee I'll see it there. Leave it in the comment section or send me an email, and we will go ahead and make that happen, assuming that it's in the realm of reality. But yeah, definitely looking forward to that. For right now, though, let's turn our attention back to this game. Secondary scoring. What is that? I'm not familiar with that term. Well, the Rangers got a decent amount of it in this game against the Lightning. All their scoring was from depth forwards and guys that you don't necessarily expect to be lighting the lamp on a nightly basis. But you got Jimmy Vesey and Jonny Brodzinski, two hardworking players. They're not always rewarded as much as maybe they should be, but they combine for 3 goals. You know, if you told me coming into this game, Rangers are playing the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they would get exactly 0 combined points from Panarin, Lafreniere, Mika Zibanejad, and Adam Fox, I'd say we're probably in some trouble. But that wasn't the case because, again, some depth scoring here. Jimmy Vesey with 2 goals, including the empty netter, and Brodzinski with an absolute snipe. Given that these guys don't score very often, and given that obviously they needed these goals, did the Rangers, I figure we can go ahead and break down at least the first 2 goals. You know, the empty netter is kind of self-explanatory, but even that was a nice shot by Jimmy Vesey. You know, he had just gotten the red line and was at a little bit of an angle, put it right into the net. But the first goal, it all started with a great save by Jonathan Quick. That's another evergreen thing that I've been saying over and over and over again on this podcast. He's been awesome. You cannot understate the importance that Jonathan Quick has had for this team. But you got Stamkos going in up the left side. He goes to his backhand. One of the few times in this game that, you know, a Tampa Bay forward really got behind the Ranger defense. I wouldn't even call this like a clear-cut breakaway. He just kind of gained a little bit of separation at the last second, tried to go backhand, and looks like Quick was able to get a piece of it, direct it wide of the net. And then not too long after this, you got Jimmy Vesey going in up the right side, and he basically just lifts a backhand shot into the roof. An excellent shot there by Jimmy Vesey. Barclay Goodrow was there. He was moving up the center of the ice. And by the way, Goodrow ended up with 2 assists in this game. So that's great for him. He comes under fire from Ranger fans every so often, but nice to see him contributing a little bit on the score sheet. But in this case, Goodrow, he's in the middle of the ice looking for the pass. Vesey looked like he wanted to pass it to Goodrow. He even said as much after the game. But basically, the Tampa Bay defenseman that was back, you know, he goes down to the ice. He's sliding across the ice on his stomach. The pass just wasn't there. I mean, I guess if you're Vesey, maybe you try to saucer it. It's possible you could link up with Goodrow here and set him up for a tip-in goal, but it would have been really hard to connect on this pass, and they were running out of space soon. And even if you do connect, there's no guarantee that it's going to be a goal. And it even looked like Vasilevsky was cheating a little bit toward Goodrow, expecting the pass. So instead, and Vesey said as much after the game, he just trusted his instincts, decided to shoot at the last second, roofed it, gave the Rangers a 1-0 lead. So great job by Jimmy Vesey there. Great shot and a great decision to shoot the puck rather than force a pass that really wasn't there. As far as the second goal, basically just an absolute snipe, a one-timer by Jonny Brodzinski that basically came out of nowhere. He was actually on the ice with Kreider and Wheeler. So it was during a partial line change because Zibanejad had not come onto the ice to this point. But basically, the puck is in the corner on Tampa Bay's side of the ice, and some good hard work by Blake Wheeler here. You know, he had 2 guys all over him in the corner, you know, continued to fight for the puck. Kreider was there too, but this was all Wheeler. You know, Wheeler was the one that had 2 guys basically draped on him and trying to take the puck away from him. He wouldn't let it happen. A lot of determination from Wheeler there to keep the play alive. And then he kind of just chips it ahead to Kreider. You know, really in the corner at this point. You know, Wheeler was up the board just a little bit, but this is like straight into the corner. And Kreider, when he gets it, I don't know if Brodzinski was calling for it or if Kreider just saw him there and knew what he was going to do with the puck, but Kreider immediately moves the puck to the right circle to Brodzinski, and Brodzinski just winds back and blasts. Brodzinski's got a hell of a shot. I think this is only like his second or third goal. I want to say third goal for Brodzinski. I know his ice time is limited. I know he's in a bottom 6 role, but I just find it hard to believe that he doesn't have at least a couple more goals than he does, because, man, can this guy shoot the puck. And he hammered it here 2-0. They were talking on the broadcast, and of course, we didn't have Sam and Joe in this game, but they were talking about, the Rangers, what they might do at the deadline, and they might be looking for a third-line center, and Jonny Brodzinski is going to do everything he can to say, hey, I got third-line center on lock here. I don't think that that's ultimately going to happen. I don't think the Rangers are going to look at Brodzinski and say, okay, yeah, he's our third-line center the rest of the way, but hey, fair play to Brodzinski for going out there and trying to convince them otherwise. I hope that, we'll see what happens. The Rangers, when they bring in, I think if they bring in one forward via trade, it's pretty obvious Tyler Pitlick is probably going to be the odd man out of the lineup. Beyond that, assuming Kakko isn't traded, it probably would be Brodzinski if a second forward was acquired by the Rangers and a second current forward had to leave the lineup. But Brodzinski plays hard, and I am happy for him that he's getting, this opportunity at long last, 30 years old. And if he hasn't set a new career high in NHL games played in one season, he's very close to doing so, and will do so, you'd have to think, before the season ends. So good stuff by Brodzinski there. Good stuff by Vesey. Awesome to finally see some secondary scoring. As far as like a quick synopsis of this entire game, period by period here. First period, I would give a slight edge to Tampa Bay, but there was nothing that was like overly concerning. I just thought, Tampa had possession a little bit more often. They had the puck on the Rangers side of the rink a little bit more often, maybe created one or two more scoring chances than the Rangers did. A couple nice saves by Quick Mix in there as well, of course. But I thought the Rangers overall defended decently well, and I thought they did a good job not preventing any not allowing any odd man rushes for Tampa, not taking any stupid penalties. In fact, the Rangers didn't take a penalty of any kind until very late in this game, late in the third period when Mika had to head to the box. But overall, nothing all that concerning in the first period. I thought the Rangers did okay. Tampa was just a little bit better, but you got 40 minutes of game in front of you, plenty of time for the Rangers to, take over, put their best foot forward, and ultimately win. That's, of course, exactly what happened. Second period, man, the Rangers really clamped down defensively. Tampa in the second period got all of 4 shots on goal. I noticed this when there were about 15 minutes to go in the game in the third period. At that point in the game, Tampa had only 10 shots on goal. You've played 45 minutes against this high-powered Tampa Bay offense, and they've mustered up all of 10 shots on goal. Now, of course, Tampa got a little push toward the end of this game and ended up with 19 shots on goal to the Rangers 24. But again, Rangers mostly did a good job defending in this one and limiting the really dangerous scoring chances, not giving up odd man rushes, not taking bad penalties to put yourself in a bad spot against a high-powered Tampa Bay power play. Good stuff all around by the Rangers defensively in this one. Third period, again, Tampa got a push, but I thought the Rangers, once again, mostly defended well down the stretch. They did hit the post, specifically Victor Hedman hit the post with a slap shot that could have tied the game. Tampa had cut it to 2-1 by that point. That's actually when Tampa was on the power play, and the sequence of events that led up to this Tampa power play were just ridiculous, because you had a situation where Hedman was down on the ice on top of Trocheck, and they were like sliding across the ice together. And at the very end of it, Hedman like very casually just reaches and pulls Trocheck's helmet off of his head, which is supposed to be a penalty. It was not detected. It was not called. But then it couldn't have been more than like 30 seconds after this where, they got Mika for a penalty, a little ticky-tack maybe. By the letter of the law, it probably was a penalty, but frustrating sequence there. They miss a penalty against Hedman, very black and white penalty, and then they get Mika for something that didn't look all that flagrant, put the Rangers shorthanded, but of course they did a nice job with the penalty kill. I also just want to mention, there's a scary moment with Mikhail Sergachev. There was a back hit by Lafreniere. They're out there battling and trying to get the puck. And, what Lafreniere did here, it was nothing even close to being dirty or malicious or anything along those lines. But Sergachev just fell very awkwardly. His skate kind of stuck in the ice, and he fell backward and twisted his foot in a way that it's not supposed to twist. And he was down. By the time they came back from the commercial, they had the stretcher out there. Nice hand from the Garden crowd. Stick taps from the Rangers, and obviously we hope that he's okay, but he was really broken up after it, and Lafreniere wasn't feeling too good either. He went over to Sergachev and gave him a tap as he was getting stretchered off. So feel for everybody involved. Just an unfortunate thing that happened there, and unfortunate, reality of professional sports. That's just the way that it goes sometimes, and hopefully it's nothing too serious or not as bad as it looked at the very least, and Sergachev can eventually get back. We got to give an unsung hero for the game as well. I'm going Braden Schneider. I feel like for a game like this, it almost had to be one of the defensemen. I thought that overall, again, the Rangers played just solid team defense. There have been too many times recently where they've been kind of leaky and giving up odd man rushes left and right. There were several defensemen you could have made the case, just about all of them really, that you could give this award to in this game. I'm going to go Schneider. I really thought about Keandre Miller. It was kind of a toss-up for me, but we're going to go with Schneider. I just thought he was solid. And the one play that kind of like put him over the top for me as far as him versus one of the other defensemen, there was a play where the puck deflected and it was looking like it might go into the Ranger net. It would have been close. Not sure if it would have gone wide or caught, the inside of the post or, whatever it might have been there. But Schneider was there. He was kind of Jonny on the spot and knocked the puck down, knocked the shot down, and then just skated away with it. So a nice play by Schneider there. He only played 15 minutes and 46 seconds. But again, we know that the Tampa Bay lineup can be very dangerous. He's still a young defenseman in this league. He's only played 2 full seasons of NHL hockey. And, you're up against a high-powered attack, and the Ranger third defense pairing at time has come under fire from Ranger fans. And I thought him and even Gustafsson, for that matter, held up pretty well against, again, a dangerous Tampa Bay attack. So there's your unsung hero. In just a second, we're going to talk about 1,000 episodes of Locked On New York Rangers. I got a couple shout outs that I want to do and just kind of, bask in it, I guess. Just kind of enjoy the fact that we've all gotten here together. This team takes us through a lot of ups and downs, but we're all in it together. And it's always, it's always a blast to come on here and talk Ranger hockey with all you guys. So we're going to do all of that in just a second. First, though, we definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Game Time. You should not have to worry when buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Buy tickets in 2 seconds with 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, so 1,000 episodes. How about that? We did it. Parts of 5 different seasons of Ranger hockey. 3 postseasons if we count the COVID year. 3 different coaches and 3 different coaching staffs. Just countless ups and downs. We've seen players hit milestones. We've seen Vesey winning goalie season. We've seen guys flirt with the MVP. I think Panarin's going to be in the mix for that again this season. We've seen Game 7 overtime wins by the Rangers, another Game 7 win against the Carolina Hurricanes, not in overtime, but still obviously an awesome moment. We've seen the Rangers get within 2 wins of making it to the Stanley Cup final. We basically went through the rebuild together. We've gone through trade seasons and picking up rentals and draft projections and all these debates about what do the Rangers need and who's really stepping up for the Rangers and why are the Rangers not playing well? Who needs to step up? We've now got a goalie controversy. We've basically seen it all in 5 seasons of Ranger hockey here. And it's funny because, every now and then, my friends know that I do this podcast and some of them are Ranger fans and they'll tune in, every once in a while. But they'll sometimes ask me, do you ever you do an episode every day? How do you think of things to talk about? And my response is always very simply, it's the Rangers. There's always something to talk about with this team. Being a fan of the New York Rangers is getting on a roller coaster where the ride never ends. It's just up, down, left, right, sideways, up, down. It's crazy. And maybe it's like this for other fan bases too. Maybe, if there's a random Western Conference team, they'd tell you the same thing. But it really does feel I didn't even mention everything just a minute ago. I didn't mention the whole situation with Georgiev and D'Angelo a few years ago and all that drama. The letter that went out against George Peros. JD and Gorton being removed at a random spot of the season. There's always drama, good or bad, and there's always something to talk about through this whole thing. The entire roller coaster that is Ranger hockey. I feel like we've really lived through an actual era of Ranger hockey here together over these past 1,000 episodes. I became a dad around episode 700 or so. I'd have to go back and check. I don't know which numbered episode was my last one before becoming a dad and which was my first one after doing that, but that was obviously amazing. And we make sure to make sure that our daughter Daniela, that she rocks Ranger gear. So I should share a few more pictures of that with you guys. I got to become a little bit more active on Twitter in that regard. We've done the fantasy league. I always have a ton of fun. I should be a little bit more active in the fantasy league chat, so I apologize for not doing that. But we always have a lot of fun. A 20-person fantasy league for 4 straight years now. Always a lot of fun banter going on there, and obviously some really passionate Ranger fans. So thanks to you guys who have played in that league the last couple of seasons here. The launch of the YouTube channel, that was a lot of fun. This is an audio-only podcast when we started, and it's been a lot of fun to see the channel grow a little bit on YouTube for the audience that we've been lucky enough to garner. And as far as like the thank yous, I mean, again, I said it at the top of the episode, cannot thank you guys enough though for tuning into this podcast every day or every couple of days, however often that you happen to listen. Maybe there's some people that this is your first episode. If that's the case, stick around. We have a lot of fun here, and there are some spirited debates in the YouTube comment section, but it doesn't get as nasty here, and we've done our best to kind of cultivate that as it does like on other social media websites. Like if you want the Rangers to trade for this player and you say so on Twitter, you've got like 5 different people calling you an idiot or whatever it might be. Usually the anonymous accounts. It's nobody that actually puts their face on the profile picture. But we do our best to make this a very welcoming environment, and we all love the Rangers and we all want to see them do well, and hopefully we all get to see them lift a Stanley Cup possibly this season, or hopefully in all of our collective lifetimes. This season would be ideal, I think. But yeah, as far as like other thank yous, all the other hosts that host different NHL teams at Locked On, there's a show for every single team, which is awesome. All those hosts do just such an amazing job. Nobody does this full time, and they pour their heart and souls into this. Do my co-hosts, and love doing those crossover episodes with all the different hosts on the NHL Network. Got to give a special thanks to the 3 former Rangers who have been cool enough to actually join me as guests on this podcast: Marty St. Louis, Jason Strudwick, and Tom Laidlaw. Marty's kind of busy these days. Obviously, he's coaching the Canadians, but I do want to circle back to Strudwick and Tom Laidlaw and see if they'll come back on the show, and obviously try to reach out to some other Rangers as well. Got to give thanks to Vince Mercogliano and Colin Stevenson, 2 just awesome Ranger beat writers who do a fantastic job covering this team, keeping us on top of everything going on with the Rangers. And they've both joined this podcast on multiple occasions in the past. YouTubers, 2 of my favorite sports YouTubers, 5 Points Vids and Alyssa Hope. They've both been great guests. They both have awesome YouTube channels. 5 Points Vids does all sports. He does a lot of hockey, but he does all sports. And Alyssa does just hockey only, but cannot recommend those 2 channels enough. They both do a fantastic job there. Got to thank David Locke, the founder of Locked On. Sean Woodley, he's the host of Locked On Raptors, and he also oversees everything going on with all the different Locked On NHL podcasts. And they've been nice enough to give me this opportunity, and cannot thank those guys enough for that either. I think that's about everything. I mean, I got to thank my parents. They made me Ranger fans. So, I was kind of born into this. My sister's a Ranger fan as well. My wife has become a Ranger fan. It's a Ranger family over here. And, our daughter is, whether she knows it or not, she's already a Ranger fan. So, yeah, been a lot of fun. And again, I just can't thank you guys enough for tuning in, checking out this show. And you know what? I don't have a special drink for this. I have a can of seltzer here, though. Cheers to you guys. Thank you as always. And here's to the next 1,000 episodes, or however many more episodes after that we end up doing here on Locked On New York Rangers. I don't know how long for sure that I'm going to do this, but I'm having a blast. The thought of not doing the show has not even occurred to me. It's not even crossed my mind. So I do think indeed we'll have at least another 1,000 episodes here, and we'll see how it goes after that. But again, it's always a goal to make it to this milestone, and thank you guys for getting me there. You guys have been super cool to me, and it's always kind of pushed me to just keep doing the show, just keep pumping out episode after episode. And yeah, I mean, like a lot of you, I never get enough of New York Ranger hockey talk. So it's been a blast. Thank you guys again. As always, thank you so much. That'll do it for today. Looking forward to episode number 1001. But as always, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. We are closing on 2,500 subscribers. So for those of you that have subscribed, thank you as always. For those of you that have not, definitely recommend doing so, especially because, as I mentioned in the past, just about every episode that we do here will be available on YouTube before it's available on audio. There's at least, a slight difference there. So you definitely want to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already done so. Thank you guys as always. And as always, I will see you next time.